Welcome. We're glad you're joining the community for worship today. This week we begin a new series called The Boat. We will look at chapter 8 in the book of Matthew as we kick off this new series. Take some time to gather your communion supplies. We typically use bread and juice for this, but use what you have wherever you are. We'll take communion together later in the service to remember Christ's sacrifice for us. Hello, my name's Kelsey. We're so glad to have you with us, whether it's your first time joining us or you've been a part of the community for a long time. God is able to bring order to the chaos in our lives and has the power to save us from our sin. By that same power, He calls us to step out in faith and follow Him. Let's give glory and praise to Him as we worship today.
Praises rising, eyes are turning to you. We turn to you. Hope is stirring, hearts are yearning for you. washed away. Hosanna, Hosanna. You are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna. Come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Hear the sound of palm trees turning to you. We turn to you. In your kingdom, broken lives are made new. You make us new. 'Cause when we see you, we find strength to face the day. 'Cause in your presence, all our fears are washed away, washed away. Hosanna, Hosanna. You are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna. Come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Hosanna, 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 Hosanna.
Countryside exists to raise up people to love like Jesus. Our ministries serve others both locally and globally. Everything we do is for God's glory and the love of the people He created in His own image. We're able to do this because of your willingness and generosity to invest in God's kingdom. If you would like to give financially to the ministries at Countryside, you can do so by giving a one-time gift or setting up recurring giving at ccctopeka.com/hub.
Hey guys, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone that's made next week's CIY Mix and Move At experience possible for our students. We're excited to be welcoming 6th to 12th graders in for free here to Countryside to eat junk food, to be able to go mini golfing, worship, and learn about Jesus. Like, we are stoked for that. And so I want to thank the volunteers that have taken time out of their busy schedule to partner with us, and also to the parents and families here at Countryside that have donated their time and money to make sure that their students could come, but also that other students could come too. What an awesome opportunity that we have. On top of that, I wanted to say there's still time and there's still room to join. So if you're a student that has a friend that would love junk food, to be able to learn about Jesus, go mini golfing, have a snow cone, and worship God, we have a place for you. And if you're an adult, we also have a place for you as well. And so if you're able to donate time as a volunteer, whether it's serving as a small group leader, whether it's serving with games, providing transportation or food, we would love to have with you and to partner with you. And so if you're able to join, I would ask that you please message me at the email below or go to ccctopeka.com/hub. Thank you guys again. We can't just say it enough how much we thank you for making this an awesome experience for students. We're stoked for next week, and we will see you there.
He became sin, who knew no sin, that we might become His righteousness. He humbled Himself and carried the cross,
take communion together each week in remembrance of Jesus' crucifixion. We typically use a wafer to represent his body and grape juice to represent his blood. Find something like this wherever you are. Isaiah 53:3 says, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed." Jesus gave his life for us so we may have eternal life through him. By accepting him, he has healed the wounds of sin. Take some time now to reflect, confess sin, and thank God for his grace and mercy in your life.
So glad that you are joining with us today as we begin this new message series entitled The Boat. Before we get into the message series, I just want to tell you real quick that if you're joining us for the first time today, we're so glad that you are here on this journey with us. We know that just stepping out, even getting online and taking time to be part of a service, even from your computer or your phone or your tablet, wherever you might be, it could be a huge step for some of you to do this for the very first time. And we just want to say welcome. But whether it's your first time or it's been your millionth time, we want to remind you of the live prayer button that you can click there, right there on your screen today. We have online hosts that are there waiting to pray with you right there in the moment, as we know that in this time, in this season in life, is that whether you're brand new or you're a return guest or a regular, there's some things that could be heavy. And so we just want to let you know that we're here for you. We're here to pray with you. So please click that button and start a chat session with someone there on the other side that would love to take time and pray with you today. As I said, we're starting this series entitled The Boat. And for over the next 4 weeks, I want us to see this through a little bit different of a lens, or an interesting lens. Is that sometimes we'll take a scripture and we'll pie it up in, a passage or a chapter, and we'll kind of work through it, or a book or a topic over a 4-week period of time. For us, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking 3 and 4 weeks from one specific story in Scripture. It's recounted in three different Gospels, but we'll be looking at it each week from a different perspective. But also then, as we wrap it up, we'll be looking at another story of Jesus' disciples on a boat. I have to say that I haven't spent a bunch of time in my life on a boat, but some of the first memories I have of being on a boat out on the lake is when I was in middle school. I had a friend that his parents owned a cabin at a lake about 45 minutes outside of the town I grew up in. That in the summer is when his birthday landed, so he would have 6 to 8 of us friends out to the cabin with his parents for the weekend to celebrate his birthday, and we would go out on their boat. Now I have to tell you that if you know me very well, I'm willing to give anything a try. I'll give it a shot. Let's give it a roll. Let's see what we can do. So while we were out on the boat, the very first year we did this, is that they asked, "Hey, have you ever kneeboarded before?" And of course I said no, but I said I'll try. And I remember laying on my belly in the kneeboard as the boat took off and the rope got ripped out of my hands and I swallowed a massive amount of water, right? And I kept trying and eventually I got up to my knees where I was actually able to kneeboard, the whole point of what I was attempting to do. Now, as that happened, the day went on and the next day happened, and I was getting comfortable with kneeboarding. I was enjoying it because I was getting pretty good at it, or at least I could hold my own. But on end of day 2, beginning of day 3, I remember his dad asking, "Does anyone want to ski?" Now, there's a vast difference of balancing on your knees versus standing up on two separate pieces of really thin, shiny wood or plexiglass going 40 miles an hour on the water, right? And so in that moment, I was challenged of, was I going to step out of that comfort zone? Was I going to try something new? Or was I going to stay with what I knew? I wanted to tell you that I did try, but it didn't end so well. See, for us over this next few weeks, I want us to think of this idea of a boat as this, that our boat is where we are comfortable. I mean, we'll see it here in Mark chapter 4 in a moment, but our boat, for the disciples, our boat, though, for the next few weeks, I want us to think in a metaphor, it's where we are comfortable. You see, our boat can be that place where we're really, truly confident. I mean, maybe it's our workplace. Our workplace is where you know your job. You know the questions to the answers that people are going to ask you. Spreadsheets and meetings, that you got that mastered. You're so good at your job that, quite frankly, you already know the questions that your clients are going to ask before they even ask them. Maybe your home life is your boat. You're good. I mean, you get up, you eat breakfast at 6, you're at work by 7:30. You eat lunch by noon, you're off work by 5. You're home by 5:30, you eat dinner at 6, and you're to bed at 10, and you start all over again. See, our life's rhythms and repetition is set by our daily grind. And even with Jesus by our side, we need our world to be rattled, or at least shaken a little bit now and then. You see, we'll pick this up in Mark chapter 4, where Jesus has this time with his disciples as they're on a hillside, and Jesus is teaching literally hundreds, if not dozens and thousands of folks, right? And Jesus says to them, let's get out on the boat. Let's go to the other side. And so in Mark chapter 4, verse 35, it says this. It says, that day when evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also others in the boat with him. You see, for the disciples there that day, is they get out in this boat. They get out in a boat in a place that, well, it's nothing new to them. They've been in the boat before. A number of them were fishermen. But even more so, the lake is close to where they live. They've been out there dozens and hundreds of times. And so going to the other side of the lake, the way you went to the other side of this lake or the sea was by boat. You wouldn't have walked. It would have taken literally days to get to the other side. But instead, they got in the boat and they headed out. See, they're in their spot of comfort. This boat was actually their physical place of comfort. It's what they knew. It's what they were. It's what they were comfortable with. You see, our boat is where we are comfortable, but also our boat is where we can be molded the best. See, in our confidence and in our comfort, without necessarily even knowing it, it is there that we are the most vulnerable. And that is exactly what Jesus uses to teach these men and these people that day in their place and in their comfort. It was on that sea. It's a sea that they made their living, many of them. They were out there day in and day out, catching the fish, taking to the market, selling it, and feeding their family. It's what they did as their daily rhythm. It was a hard and intense job. But this is where Jesus got their attention, and it's where Jesus taught them, because as the adage goes, some things you can only learn in a storm. Because as they're out in the boat, we see Mark records in verse 37, a furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. See, very seldom will your boat be rocked by something that you're not passionate about. I mean, where we feel comfortable and where we feel confident, it's where our faithful and future growing pains it's where they're birthed, it's where they come from. See, when the silence is the loudest form of communication in your marriage, it's where one can learn about reconciliation. When the doctor gives you the news of those test results with that 5-letter word that you never thought that your family would ever have to deal with, let alone you, well, some begin to grip more loosely to the things that they gripped tightly to before that news. Or maybe it's when your theological convictions are challenged, and you come to terms that what you thought was wisdom was only twisted religious info. Your relationship with Jesus, well, is challenged, and it's maybe it hasn't been a relationship at all. You see, in our response, in the midst of those storms, when we are in our place in our boat, when we're comfortable and we're confident and the storm arises, how we respond, well, it might look something like this. Verse 38. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. And the disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" I mean, do you hear that? Don't you care? Can you hear us saying something similar? Don't you care that my marriage is in shambles? Don't you care that my daughter is pregnant? Don't you care that my addiction is haunting me? Don't you care? Jesus, don't you care? See, when the storms of life are raging, don't forget this verse. Don't forget the next of the narrative of what Jesus says in response to them saying, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Verse 39. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. See, we're in August now, and summer, well, it's still summer, but we're looking ahead to the fall. Praise God, right? It's sweating. We're not going to sweat for no reason when fall comes. But there's something about summer that I do enjoy. Besides the unwarranted heat, there's something I do enjoy about summer, and it's the thunderstorms that we get to experience. And there's something good about it, and not just the boom and the crash of the thunder and the lightning, but after the storms come through and after the rain pelts down and the winds blow, there's something about the calm afterwards. There's a lessening of the humidity in the air. There's kind of just that settled peace, if you will, when you step outside and you feel the temperature is lower and it's quiet. It's almost as though that it clears the air. I wonder what that moment was like for the disciples when Jesus spoke those 3 very simple yet powerful words. Quiet, be still. See, the disciples' fear, I think, melted and faded away just like the waves did. Is that they went from, "Jesus, don't you care if we die? Where are you at?" to just a peaceful ride on the sea in their boat. You see, their fear subsided, and it created space then for their faith to increase. Verse 39, it says, he said, this is Jesus, "Why are you so afraid? Do you not have faith?" Based off my own experiences and what I've witnessed with others in life, this seems to be true. That faith sustains us during the storm, but our faith grows when we look back on the storm. Let me say that again. Faith sustains us during the storm, but our faith increases when we look back on the storm. After the winds settle, after the waves quit crashing, we can look back and go, that's right. He was there the whole time. That he was there the whole time. When the wind is blowing, I want you to hear this, hold on tight. Nahum 1:7 tells us this, that the Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. When the waves are crashing, know who is on your side. Psalm 144 from our Psalm reading plan from this last month says this, He is my loving ally and my fortress, my tower of safety, my rescuer. He is my shield, and I take refuge in Him. When we make it through to the other side of the storm, we can see our faith increase. You see, where we're comfortable and where we're confident is where storms are going to arise. Because it's where our attention can be grabbed the easiest. It's where our faith can be increased the most. But I want us to see this too. Is that in this story, in this account, as we know, that it's in a few of the Gospels. Mark tells us that after this all happens, and after Jesus calms the storm, and after He asks them, do you have faith? He uses His word. It says that the disciples were terrified. It was just the word terrified. And I mean, rightly so. But the gospel writer Luke adds something to the end of this narrative describing the people that day that I think has merit. It actually helps us understand more deeply about these waves, about these storms, and how it is that we respond. And how our faith, it can increase. He says that Luke writes that in his gospel is that they in fear and amazement. In fear and amazement. They were fearful, but there was amazement in the fact that this Jesus just spoke the winds quiet. He just calmed the waves with 3 simple words. You see, fear was their spiritual state during the storm, but amazement was their state witnessing the work of Jesus. See, I want you to know that. Is that sometimes we can kind of walk in this faith journey and our boat is rocked, our home life is rocked, our job is rocked, our family is rocked. Whatever it is that we feel comfortable, we feel confident, it gets rocked. And then we will think, well, man, I'm just not faithful. I want you to hear this. Is that we can remain faithful in the midst of the storm, but your faith will increase when you look back on the storm and see that Jesus is the one who quieted it. So I ask you a really simple question today, and completely loaded. Will you allow Jesus to amaze you in your storms? You see, I think it's easier to say, man, I'm trying to have faith, than it is to look back and be amazed at what Jesus has done and what He continues to do. Because at the pace and the clip that our life runs and the speed at which we travel through life, we sometimes don't pause long enough to see that He calmed the storm. We're just stuck with the words, Jesus, do you notice? Do you care? You see, I want you to know that He is willing and He is ready. He is willing and He is ready to take your place of comfort, to take you in your boat that you're riding in, and calm the storms that's happening around you. Not just so that you and I can feel better about the ride that we're in, but more so that our faith can increase. So I ask you one more time as we wrap this up, is will you allow Jesus to amaze you in the storms? Because He is willing and He is ready.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. For all my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, and I will see the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will see the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
Thank you for joining us for worship today. If you'd like to know more about what's going on at Countryside, or if you'd like to let us know how we can pray for you, head to ccctopeka.com/hub. We hope you have a great week. See you next time.